Hi, welcome to the Dad Explains podcast. I'm Trig.
I'm Dad.
And today our question is, because of coronavirus, viruses and pandemics. What is a virus and what classifies as a pandemic? What does a virus do?
You know, that's a very timely question. Why is it timely?
Because of coronavirus.
Mm,
Stuck at home.
that's right. We've been on quarantine for like
How we figured out
2
about
months now.
this?
Oh yeah, we're on the
Background.
magic of Zoom. Zoom put our background back here. It's very nice.
Very nice. Reverse. And they can't see it.
So how does a virus work?
I don't know.
All right. Well,
How does a virus work?
do you know the building blocks that your body is made up with?
Water. No, it's like 70% water.
70% water. And then what gives you your structure? Do you know?
Bone.
Right? Bones, muscles,
Cells?
skin, cells. That's right.
Atoms.
Your body is made up of this billions of teeny tiny cells.
Ooh.
They're like little building blocks. It's almost like bricks in a brick wall.
Except they flow around. I've heard like cells like flow around.
Well, some cells flow
like blood cells like flow.
That's right. Blood cells flow throughout your body, but some cells are locked in, which is good because like skin cells, right?
Yeah.
You don't want those flowing all over. That would be crazy.
Be like your face is melted.
Right. And those cells are so small that most of them you can't see without a microscope. All right. And they all link together to make the different parts of your body, like your skin. They have your skin cells, but then you have like.
Is it like cells make up everything, right?
Cells make up basically all of your body. Yeah, I mean there's some different. There's some things that connect the cells.
I was getting confused
nerves.
with atoms.
Okay.
Atoms make up cells, right?
Atoms make up cells. Yeah.
Okay.
Atoms make molecules, which make cells.
I get confused with atoms and cells.
Yeah. And so every cell in your body has a different function, right? Because obviously your skin cells are probably different than the cells in your eye because they don't act the same, right? Because you can't see.
Because you can't see out of your skin.
That's right. You can't see out of your skin.
Weird.
Right. All right. So you have all these building blocks making up your entire body, and every single cell in your body has what's called DNA. DNA. Yeah. Okay. So DNA is the instructions.
The instructions on
for your whole body.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So every cell.
Brain.
Yeah. Every cell has the same DNA as all of the other cells. They store all of the DNA needed to make another you in every cell of your body. Almost every cell. There are a couple exceptions, but almost every cell. Isn't that cool? So every cell has the entire instructions to make a new you, but there's also there's other types of instructions in there that tell it to be like a skin cell or an eye cell or whatever. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. And so what those cells do is, well, if the instructive cells, like some of the proteins and the RNA, if they steer it to be a skin cell or an eye cell, all right, then your cell functions like a skin cell or an eye cell or a lung cell, right, to absorb the oxygen and get it into your bloodstream, or a brain cell to help you think about things. Okay. Now, here's what a virus does. A virus is a single-celled organism all on its own. Okay. They don't actually totally qualify it as life, and this is why.
They don't?
No. And this is why. This is what a virus does. Okay? Typically, viruses are much smaller than your cells. So they're single cells, but they're smaller than your cells, much smaller. Okay? And what they can do is they can go into some of your cells, and what they do is they viruses have instructions too. Okay? They have their own DNA. Okay? Viruses have DNA.
Why don't they qualify as living?
Well, just by the definition that we've given to a living being, it's close, but it's not classically defined as a living organism. But they have instructions, okay? And what they do is their cell, first of all, the virus buries into your cell, okay?
What?
Yeah. So one virus will bury into one of your cells. And what it does is it inserts its DNA into your DNA or your RNA, and it takes over that cell. It replaces the instructions with some different instructions, okay? Yes, crazy. And do you know what the new instructions are that it says to do? It says, make copies of me. So instead of your skin cells doing all the things that skin cells do, which are...
That sounds like an auto-programming computer factory.
Almost like an auto-programming computer factory thing, right? Well, that's why a computer virus is also called a virus.
Yeah.
Because it goes into your computer and makes copies of itself and starts to take over your computer. Viruses do the same thing to your cells. So instead of your skin cells acting like skin cells and absorbing moisture or getting rid of moisture or sweating or keeping you protected, if a virus gets in your skin cell, it just starts making other viruses. Okay? And it just starts like a virus factory, and it starts popping these other viruses out to the other parts of your body.
Well, really, what's the point if it's just making to go into other cells to just make more and more?
More and more and more. Well, that's what a virus does, because a virus wants to survive, but it can't make copies of itself.
Well, but there are a bunch of cells, like white blood cells and red blood cells. Like, what do they attack? Like all of them?
Well, and so that's the thing.
Are they picky viruses?
Different viruses attack different cells. And some viruses can attack lots of different kinds of cells.
Picky?
And some viruses are really specific to certain kinds of cells. Okay?
So they are picky viruses.
Yeah, they are picky viruses. And so what happens is your body, usually what happens is, let's say a virus gets into your lung cells. And it starts attacking your lung cells. It's like, it attacks one lung cell, it pops out a bunch of viruses, and those all go and attack more lung cells, and it multiplies and multiplies, and soon a lot of the cells in your lungs are attacked. Okay, they're just making all these viruses, right? And therefore, they're not doing what lung cells are supposed to do, which is help you breathe and get oxygen into your blood and your brain and all that stuff. Okay? Well, so that virus, what does your body do? Well, it sends white blood cells, and those white blood cells kill the virus.
Well, what about the virus? Are there any viruses that are actually smart and attack white blood cells?
There are some, but coronavirus doesn't do that. Okay? Shoot. So, yeah. So what the white blood cells do, and this is kind of neat, okay? What they do is they go and they find some viruses, and they all try to make different virus killers. And these are called antibodies, okay? And
well, when you get a shot, do they inject antibodies in you?
Well, that's a good question. Like a vaccine?
Yeah.
They don't. So what they do, so this is what they do. Either when you have a vaccine or you get a virus. So let's say you get the flu. The flu is a virus. Or a cold. The cold is a virus too. Okay? So if you get the flu or you get a cold, what happens is the virus goes into cells, turns those cells into virus-making factories. Pretty soon, the virus is spreading through all the different cells. Usually, it's a specific kind of cell. So like your lung cells, right? So now a lot of your lung cells aren't working right. And that's why you start coughing and you're sneezing and you're all those things, right? So, and you feel bad because your body's not really working right. Your body's trying to fight it.
It's like all its energy is trying to fight it.
All the energy is trying to fight the virus. So they send a lot of white blood cells. And the white blood cells can kill the virus, okay? Or what they do is they come up with like a virus spray. Let's call it like a little virus spray, okay? It's called an antibody. And so you don't have to have if the white blood cells can come up with this antibody, it's like a specific killer for that particular virus.
Mhm.
And so what they do is they attack enough viruses and try different antibodies until your body figures out what antibody it needs to make, and then it just, and antibodies are a lot easier for your body to make than white blood cells. And they work a lot, antibodies work faster. It's like the white blood cells also almost manufacture like a spray, like a bug spray that just kills all the viruses that it touches. Okay? So so think about it like this. If you were a white blood cell and the virus were ants, okay, because viruses are a lot smaller than white blood cells. So you can stomp, try to kill as many viruses as you can, or you can just spray ant spray all over your entire yard and it will kill all the ants in your yard. Just one of you, right? That's what antibodies do. So but it takes time for them to figure out which antibodies kill which virus. Okay? So a lot of times what they do when they inject you with a vaccine is they'll inject you with a virus, but it's a virus that's already dead. So they inject you with like a dead virus or part of a virus. And then your white blood cells, they get to say, okay, this virus is not infecting anyone, but I want to see what would kill it. And they get to experiment on all these dead viruses.
Tiny scientists.
Like tiny scientists in your body. Yeah, so they can make the antibodies. And once they've made the antibodies, you have, for the most part, all of the antibodies in your system that have ever been needed to fight a virus.
Like, it just floods your body, all antibodies.
Yeah, and antibodies don't hurt you, and
do
they just kind of hang out.
Do they ever go away?
No.
So you never get the virus again?
No, a lot of them don't.
So then the flu, you have to get a flu shot like every year.
That's because viruses, it's a never-ending cycle, right? Viruses can mutate. You know what that means?
No.
So viruses then go, oh, you figured out the spray, the antibodies that will kill us. So then what happens is they mutate to where they go, oh, well, we're going to become resistant to that spray. So they figure out, the viruses figure out how to resist the antibody. Yeah,
it's like a scientist.
It's like it really is. It's a never-ending battle. The white blood cells are like, hey, we figure out that this antibody spray that kills you, and then then takes the viruses like another year. Yep, and they're like, well, we figured out how to resist it. And then the white blood cells are like, well, we figured out how to. Yeah, and it goes back and forth, right? So that's why you have to get a flu shot every year. So here's what happened with the novel coronavirus, or COVID-19. Okay, this is what happened. So a virus that had never been experienced by humans infected someone. Okay. Now, this is why that's a big deal. When the flu comes around every year, even without the flu shot, it takes a while for viruses to mutate. Okay. And sometimes it doesn't mutate enough, or some of the viruses don't mutate enough so that the old antibodies won't kill it. So just because it's a stronger virus or stronger ant or whatever.
Well, then what if it mutates really slowly and then the antibody can't handle it? Then would it be still a pandemic?
Well, so what happens is every flu season, right, every once a year or so, when it gets colder outside and it's easier for viruses to spread because sun kills viruses, humidity slows down their transmission. But what happens is every year during flu season, there's a big portion of the population that is already immune to whatever mutation the virus has had, okay? Because they make very small mutations. The flu does every year. It's only able to make small mutations. So most people are still immune to it.
Yeah.
And then the people that maybe the virus has mutated enough that those people don't have the antibody spray, it might infect them, right? And then next year they're immune to that virus. And so there's enough people every year that are already immune that you don't have you don't have that many infected. You still have millions of people infected by the flu, but it's not hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
And enough people are used to it or have had the flu enough times that it doesn't usually, it still kills some of them, but it doesn't kill as many. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the coronavirus is nobody had ever, or at least the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, nobody had ever been infected with it.
Mm-hmm.
So what would happen is if every single person had to get it to get the antibodies for their body to develop the antibodies.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody got the novel coronavirus at once, at the same time, the hospitals wouldn't be able to handle it. Mm-hmm. And it was a little bit more deadly, or a good bit more deadly than the flu.
Mm-hmm.
So what they were doing was they were trying to prevent everyone from getting it at once before people had a chance to build up antibodies. Yeah. Stay home.
Get out of here.
Stay away. And also, this one was strange because kids, especially 9 and under, barely even felt it. They didn't have any. So if you might have already had it and you don't know. So we were worried that everyone would get it at once and there wouldn't be enough hospital beds for those that got really sick and needed a hospital. And if you got the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, and you needed a hospital bed and you didn't get one, you might die. And more people would die in that way. So that's why it was a pandemic, because everyone could have gotten it at once, mm-hmm. which is why they called it a pandemic.
So that's the classification of a pandemic?
Pandemic is something that such a big population, a big portion of the population, like most of the population, has not gotten yet. And so they don't have immunity. Immunity is when you have that antibody spray in your system already and it can protect you. So if you don't have immunity, if most of the population doesn't have immunity and the virus can spread really easily, then you have a pandemic on your heads where almost everyone could get it all at the same time or close enough to the same time where the hospitals would fill up and then people would start dying, and that could lead to some very bad things. So that's why we had to go on lockdown, and that's why we had quarantine, and that's why they're trying to figure out a vaccine so that everyone can get. Instead, it won't be a flu shot. It'll be like the corona shot. Right? I don't know what it would be called.
Shot of corona.
All right. So anyway. So yeah, that's how viruses work, and that's what a pandemic is. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
All right, buddy. Well, good.
So yeah, you can check us more out at dadexplainstw.com. You have to put a www dot at the front because we don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Bye. Coronavirus.
You don't have to say that every time you cough.
Okay, fine.